Welcome, class. This next lesson we want to talk about is section 4.2 on slope. Slope is a measure of the steepness of a line on a graph. It's the rise divided by the run. So the slope is how steep a line is. One way you can write that is the rise over the run. I like to write it with the y to help me remember that it's a change in y over change in x's. Or you can think of it as the vertical change to the horizontal change. Now you can either grab a note sheet to follow along with me, or you can take your own notes on this. Another way you might see it is the triangle that represents the term change. That's delta, change in y over change in x. Right, but when you think of slope, think about hitting the slopes in skiing. How steep a line is what the slope is. All right, so if the slope is the rise over the run, the simplest way to calculate the slope is to just make what we call a slope triangle. From one point on a line, calculate the rise. Here would be 3 units. Over the run would be 2 units. So we say the slope of this line is 3 over 2. Notice it's positive. From left to right, you read a line from left to right, just like you read a sentence. So the slope is positive. It goes up from left to right. Let's try this example. What's the slope of the line? If you're given a graph, you just have to calculate the rise over the run. The rise was -1, and the run was 3. So the slope is equal to -1 over 3. That's my change in y over change in x. This is my slope. Notice this time it's negative. From left to right, the line's going down. So by the time you're done with this unit, you'll be able to calculate the slope given a graph and given 2 points. So given a graph, this is what you do. Draw your slope triangle and count the rise over the run. So there's 4 possibilities for slope. Slope can either be positive, the slope of a line, which means from left to right it goes up. Okay, the slope can be negative, meaning from left to right it goes down. The slope can be 0. Think of skiing. When you're skiing and you just have a flat level surface, or think of the floor, that has a slope of 0. It exists, but it's flat. What kind of line has an undefined slope? The way that I remember it is, can I ski, if I think everything in terms of skiing, can I ski straight up and down a wall or up and down a cliff? Well, no, you'll break your arm, you'll break your leg if you ski straight up and down something like a wall or a cliff. So that's what I used to remember when the slope is undefined or doesn't exist. So those are the 4 possibilities you can have for a slope. So if you go ahead and take the sheet that I've given you or on your own piece of paper, if you want to make a sketch, please do that. Sketch a line with a positive slope. So that would be any line that from left to right goes up. Sketch your own line with a negative slope. So that's anything from left to right that would go down. 0 is any horizontal line, and that's good to know. Horizontal, to remember that. And then a vertical line would be your undefined slope. All right, so the second objective for today is being able to find the slope given 2 points. And here's a formula, I'm sure you've seen it before, M represents slope. How do you find the slope given 2 points? Basically, you take your y coordinates and subtract those, and then take your change in x, you'd have to subtract your x coordinates. So y sub 2 minus y sub 1 equals x over x sub 2 minus x sub 1 is your slope formula. So here's an example. Find the slope of the line through these 2 points. Now we don't always have to graph them. We could graph the point 1, 3. We could graph the point 3, 6. Okay, and find that the slope, the difference between those two, the rise over the run, is 3 over 2 for the slope. But we're not always going to have a graph. We're not always going to have nice numbers to graph. Okay, but let's use the slope formula. We said it was subtract the y's. That's going to give you this, the change in your y values. over subtract the x's, that's just another way to give you the change in x values. So here's my y's. Remember x, y, and xy. So if I go 6 minus 3, those are my y coordinates, over 3 minus 1, those are my x coordinates, that gives me 3 over 2, which is the same thing that I just got by using the graph. All right, so let's try it with this with some negative numbers in here. I'm not even going to actually graph this one. I'm going to subtract my y's over subtract my x's, which is going to be 7 and 4. So 7 minus 4, and the most common mistake students make is putting the x's over the y's. All right, so 7 minus 4 over negative 3 minus negative 2. Now be careful. When you subtract a negative, 7 minus 4 is 3, but 3 minus negative 2 is like adding. Subtracting a negative is adding. So negative 3 plus 2 is negative 1. So the slope here is negative 3. Now let's try it. Well, let's sketch it. I said I wasn't going to, but let's just see if we did it right. Negative 2, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 is here. And negative 3, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes, I can see right now it's down 3 over 1. So both by the graph and given the 2 points, we've been able to find the slope of a line. That's our goal for today. All right, what if you're asked to graph a line passing through the point negative 5, 5 with a slope of 3/5? Well, you would just go to the point negative 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up 5, 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's the point negative 5, 5. Go up 3 over 5. Connect. And there you go. How about graph the line passing through the point negative 3, negative 5 with a slope of 0? Okay. All right, so the wrap up. Can you find the slope of a line given its graph? And can you find the slope of a line given 2 points on the graph? All right, if you're able to do that, you can go on and take the quiz in Apex 4.2 on slope.